Okay, so some of you may not know, my name is Jake Chernugal. I'm actually one of the newer members here. I've only been coming for, I want to say, coming on about 3 months. And so I've really found a home here at this fellowship, and have really kind of been excited to see how open and how liberal this fellowship is in the services that they have, and as well as just kind of accepting people from all sorts of walks of life. So I was looking at the clock and I'm thinking, holy man, my thing is like a half hour, and so now I got to like adapt on the fly, and I'm thinking, man, so life is all about just kind of adapting as we go through and kind of changing things. Super excited to be here. Today is going to be one of those days where we're all going to just kind of go on a journey together. So when I talk with groups, one of the things that I really try to emphasize is not more or less just me talking to you, because really anybody can do that, but it's more about just having this dialogue where you can then take what's being said and begin to apply it in your day-to-day. We are all looking at becoming better people, and so we watch videos and we listen to lectures and we go to gatherings and really try to soak it all in. But unfortunately, that's only half of it. The other half is actually being able to apply everything that you're listening to and everything that you're exposed to. And so I'm really hoping that today, as we go through this, you're able to kind of latch on to the things that I'm saying. You're able to go into your mind and think, oh yeah, I understand that, been there, and this is what I'm going to do moving forward. Or this is what I've done in the past. And so, like Terry had mentioned before, today's discussion is about mercy. And so when I was asked to speak on mercy, mercy is kind of one of those words you really don't think a lot about, yet you hear people use it more times than not. And so when I really started to look at the word mercy, I really started to see that mercy is more or less of a destination. It's like an end point. And so we show mercy and we provide mercy to other people. And there's these steps that we have to go through to get to that point of actually being able to exhibit some level of mercy. And so as I began to kind of go through that journey, a couple things that I found out is that we have to, in order to reach the point of mercy, we have to have a deep level of understanding of what the person is going through. When we develop this level of understanding, we begin to form a deep level of compassion for what these people have gone through or what they're currently going through. And so as I was thinking, how can you get all of this wrapped up into a story? And because I'm kind of a storyteller. And so I started to think about the story, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, and it's the prodigal son. Okay? And so I'm going to save you the longness of the story. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. A young man ventures out on his own, makes his own mistakes, and then has to come back and come back to his father, whom he had probably left on not such a good note. And I think we can all kind of relate to that because we've all been there. I think at one point in our life, we've all thought we had it figured out. We all thought that, you know what? I know life. I understand this. I know I did when I was 18. I remember looking, at my parents, and my parents saying, are you sure you want to make this move? And and of course, me being 18, I had all the answers. And I think we can all relate to that, as some of us have been 18. Some of us may currently be 18. And some of us have probably been 18 for the last 10 years. And so here's this young man, okay, and we can relate to him because he goes out, he makes his mistakes, he comes back. And so that's a story, and people are like, oh, it's a great story. But the one part of the story that I want to focus on that I think we can even relate deeper to is actually the father. Okay? And so here's the father who has given his son his inheritance, and I'm sure he has told his son, life is hard. It's not easy. It's not what you think it is. If you're not answering to me, you're going to be answering to somebody. The tax man, the electric company, the gas man. I mean, there's always somebody there to answer to. And so the son leaves, and the father, allows the son to live his life. And so the father sees the son coming back, and he rejoices. And a lot of people are like, well, why would you rejoice? Somebody who, essentially just kind of disrespected you. And I think he rejoiced for a couple of reasons. Number one, he rejoiced because he was glad to see that his son was safe, that he was alive. And the other thing that he rejoiced is because he'd been there too. He understood. He remembers he was 18 at one time. He remembers that he too thought he had it all figured out, that he ventured out into the real world and made his mistakes. See, that's the one thing that we all have in common. No matter who you are, your age, doesn't matter where you grow up, where you come from, we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that we maybe wish we would have done differently, would have handled differently. And so the father shows this deep level of understanding, and that's why he can't be upset. And that's why he rejoices when his son comes back, because he's been there. And he understands that. As we go through life, I like to see the mind as like this big warehouse. And in this warehouse, we have all these file cabinets. Every experience that we go through is tucked in a folder and then put in a file cabinet. This experience that you're having here is going to be tucked in a folder, put in a file cabinet. Sometime in your life, whether it's 10 minutes from now, whether it's a year from now, whether it's 10 years from now, you're going to either yourself be in a situation, or a family member is going to be in a situation, or somebody in your community is going to be in a situation where you're going to have this moment of, oh yeah, I've been there. I remember what that was like. And you're going to go into this file cabinet, you're going to open it up, thumb through all the folders, and you're going to find that experience that you went through. And you're going to review it, and you're going to remember how you felt. You're going to remember how people treated you. Okay? You're going to remember not only that, but how you were able to get through that moment. And that's what's going to help you gain a better understanding of what people are going through. And through that, you're going to have a deeper sense of compassion. And you're not going to judge. You're not going to point the finger because you remember what it was like being in that situation. Now, we all have moments in our life that, unfortunately, are just horrific. And you don't want anybody to know. As a matter of fact, they're so bad that when you file that one experience away, you actually lock that file box. And then you actually go out and you get some of that shrink wrap and you actually wrap the file box, right? You wrap it a couple more times and you grab a blanket and you lay a blanket over the top, maybe put some candles on top, and maybe a couple rocks.
And then you build a bonfire.
Yeah, exactly, a bonfire.
It doesn't work.
No. And so here you have this experience that you've tucked away, but it's hidden underneath all of this stuff. Okay, because we don't want to experience it. Because we remember how bad it was, how it made us feel. And if we don't revisit that, then we don't ever have to think about that file cabinet. We can just walk by it and water the plant that's on top of it, or wipe off the dust that's, gathered on top of it and stuff like that. Yet, we will go through our lives avoiding conversations that will remind us of what's in that box. When we hear people talking about something that we experience that's in that box, we'll actually leave the room. Okay? And so in order for us to really begin to show compassion and to show understanding, we need to begin to chip away at that folder, or at that file box that has those experiences in it. Because remember, you're not the only one. You may think you're the only one that's been through that specific experience, but I guarantee you that you're not. As a matter of fact, you could think of probably the most horrific experience you had in your life, and I guarantee you there's somebody in this room that's been through something similar. And so when you begin to expose yourself to the conversations that are out there about people who are having those similar experiences, that's your opportunity to begin to work at that file box, okay? And showing compassion and understanding isn't going up and saying, oh, I understand what you've been through. I've been there, okay? And it's not putting your arm around somebody and sharing your story and bringing up old memories and stuff like that. Showing understanding and compassion is just simply walking up to somebody and just giving them a hug. It's simple. It's not complicated. And as we begin to do that, we begin to show to other people that we have a level of understanding and we have a level of compassion. When we had the exercises with the children today, we saw and we gave the kids the opportunity to help the other kids make the right choice. And it kind of backfired, but yet they are, absolutely. Yet we've all been there where sometimes you have to allow your loved ones to just figure it out. You have to allow your community to just figure it out. Sometimes we have to intervene because we understand what it's like to put our hands into something that's really not that pleasant and really makes us uncomfortable. And so it's at that time that we really begin to reach out to people and say, you know what, I've been there, okay? And if you put your hand in there, it's not what you think it is. And so allow me to help you make the right decision. And now, even though you're helping somebody make the right decision, it doesn't mean they're still going to make it, right? I mean, as adults, as elders, I mean, how many times have you told, your younger generation, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Yet they still do it. And sometimes you just have to allow people to figure it out. And so when we talk about mercy and compassion, we eventually not mercy and compassion. When we talk about compassion and understanding, we get to that point where we can show mercy, where we can just let people know that, you know what, we've all been there. We fully understand what you're going through. Now, that doesn't mean that we disregard the behavior and say, what you did was okay. Okay, because sometimes that behavior, is negative and it's not good. And there are consequences to that behavior, yet we don't look at them differently because we remember what it was like being in that situation. And so one story really quick that I want to do tell, I have just a few minutes, is when we talk about mistakes, when I was younger, I made big mistake. Big. I was 18. All right, and like I said before, some of you have been that age before. And I made a big mistake. As a matter of fact, my mistake was so bad that a large portion of my family actually turned and walked the other way. A large portion of my community turned and walked the other way. Society had deemed me to be a misfit, right? Because I just didn't fit in. And so I had to carry this with me, and I carried this with me for 7 years. And through that process, I learned a lot, okay? One of the biggest things I learned was how people viewed your mistakes. I spent 7 years, and one of the hardest things I had doing was trying to find a job. And so I would go and apply for these positions, and we would have the interview, and right away it was, no, sorry. Okay, we know what you did, and so we're not going to hire you. And so I was turned away for a lot of different jobs. As time went on, I began to learn what kind of questions they were going to be asking, right? I went into my file folder, my file box, and pulled out every one of those folders and remembered, okay, this is what they asked last time. This is what they asked last time. These are the things that I need to do in order to have a successful interview. And eventually, I was finally employed. One of the first jobs I had was to actually hire people. It's kind of ironic. And so I would sit across from people, and in order for these people to be employed, they had to pass specific requirements. Okay, and if they didn't pass these requirements, they wouldn't get hired. And so every time somebody sat down across from me, I always told them, okay, first of all, you're going to have to pass some requirements. Understand that. Second of all, there is nothing you can tell me that's going to surprise me because I've been there. The third thing, and the most important thing I would tell people, is when you leave here, understand that you may not have the job, but you will leave with options. Because I remember what it was like going through an interview and just being denied, flat out denied, and then just being left to figure it out on my own. And so I would work with people and say, okay, you know what, this is what it's going to take in order for you to pass these specific requirements, in order for you to become employed, whether it's here or whether it's through another agency. And what you begin to do when you show that level of understanding is you give people hope. They leave there knowing that maybe they didn't get that job, but knowing that they also have an opportunity somewhere else. They have options. And so every day that we have the opportunity to show people this, to go in our file boxes, pull out that Nilla folder, remember what we went through. Remember how we felt going through that. And then begin to look at our children, our family, our community, and really begin to understand, you know what? We've all been there. And because of that, we have more compassion through what people are going through, and we show mercy. And we're not judging people. We're not casting them aside, saying that you're a misfit or anything else. We're here to help. And I think as this fellowship, one of the things that we say at the very end is seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. And you do that not by just saying those words, but by going out into your community, drawing on those experiences, and helping people gain a better understanding of what other people are going through. Because once you do it, and you do it, and you do it, people begin to pick up on that. And they begin to see that, yeah, you know what? You're right, I'm not perfect. I'm not the first one to throw that stone. And so I encourage all of you, when you leave here, just take some time today, tomorrow, this week, this month, go through that file folder. Okay? Remember what you've been through. And then begin to look at the lives around you and see how you can positively impact the people around you by reflecting on the experiences that you had of your own. Okay? Perfect. That's all I got.